Many different kinds of feelings can cause an erection. Often the penis will get hard for what seems like no reason at all.
Puberty and sex education are always awkward topics to discuss for any teenager. Combine that with being British and going to an all-boys school, and you have the perfect recipe for repression, profuse amounts of blushing, and unexplained erections. In order to break some of this tension, and deviate from the standard penis goes in vagina but make sure you don't get them pregnant lesson plan, our teachers would occasionally make us watch educational films. I recently remembered one of these films, and as much as I appreciate its positive messages, I just had to share it with you all. It's called Am I Normal? And as you can imagine from a title like that, it's comedy gold. I know this is just an educational film from way back, 1979 in fact, but the situations it portrays are ridiculous. The dialogue is so corny and the acting is genuinely horrible. If I pointed out every single instance of these, this video would be longer than a Peter Jackson extended edition, but you'll see what I mean. A lot of the humour is of course intentional, but I'm going to poke fun at it anyway. Am I Normal follows Jimmy as he goes on an epic quest to find out whether he's, you know, normal.
You see, my body was about through these changes, and I was about to have these experiences, and my life was never going to be the same again. Erections.
Sorry, what was that?
Erections.
Rections?
Erections. Hair, where it never grew before.
What hair?
It all started when I noticed that everyone was suddenly interested in sex.
That looks like a good book to be reading in public. This is Jimmy's friend Tony. He's basically Jay from The Inbetweeners, but slightly less of a c***.
I heard size don't make a difference. Of course it does. It's got to. It's only logical. Anyway, we don't have to worry.
Unsurprisingly, he's not very smart.
Jack Market of London, England, had an erection 2 feet long. Held it there for 48 days, and 3 people sat on it before it finally snapped off.
Sounds legit. Every Englishman has that problem.
Is that stuff really true?
This is Jimmy's other friend, who does almost nothing and serves no purpose except to show that Jimmy has more than one friend.
Of course it's true. It, happened to a friend of my brother's. Come on, man. Be cool.
But was it really true?
Hey, Jimmy. You heard this stuff. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, man.
Alright, Casanova. You know, if you make your voice even deeper, it might sound more convincing. He meets the teenage boy's worst enemy, the teenage girl. Wait, is it a girl? I can barely tell.
Hi, Jimmy. Want to go to the movies with me this weekend?
What was happening to me? Erections.
Ah yes, the classic hands in the pockets trick. Pro tip, ladies. This means we like you.
What you doing?
Did she know?
Nothing. I'm looking for my keys. I can't find my keys. Oh, can I help?
Uh-oh.
And this is when you say, yeah, sure, I could use an extra hand.
No. I'd rather you didn't. Okay. See you Saturday. Bye now.
Bye.
Yeah, that's what most of us feel like doing right now. Feeling insecure and a bit curious, he tries to confide in his friends about his, little problem. And given the sensitivity of the subject matter and the intimacy of their friendship, you might expect him to receive a pat on the shoulder and a few kind words. You'd be wrong. So he goes to talk to his dad instead.
Dad, could you tell me about sex?
What's the matter, Jim? Are you in trouble or something?
Why was that your first answer?
Okay, let's see now. Men have their own baseball bat.
Speaking for yourself, I'm sure.
Girls have catcher's mitts.
So you throw your balls into them at 90 miles per hour. Got it.
Men just know about these things. That's all. They just know. It'll come to you. You'll see. Now let's watch the game, huh?
He doesn't give a f***. Does he?
I guess he tried his best,
No, he didn't.
but I was still in the dark.
But little Jimmy's about to find out more for himself. The hard way.
What was this? A wet, sticky spot on my bed.
He tries to hide the evidence.
Oh, by the way, Ma, I forgot to tell you, but I spilled water all over my bed. I guess I'm gonna have to put the sheets in the hamper. Okay, Ma?
Okay, dear.
They should have called him Solid Jimmy to distinguish him from the Liquid Jimmies. He goes to a library to conduct some research.
I want to know about the male penis.
As opposed to the female penis, of course.
Excuse me. I'd like to know about the male penis, please.
Fucking acting, seriously? The book is blank for some reason, and then it segues into an animation that's not at the same angle as the page. And why is it blank in the first place? Were they that cheap that they couldn't pay for some ink?
The penis gradually becomes larger.
Does it? Is that what's meant to happen? His tool of a friend follows him into the library, and then into the toilet.
Man, you've been there an awful long time. What you doing?
I'm reading.
Yeah, sure you're reading. I know what you're doing in there. Feeling good, huh? Come on now. You can tell old Tony boy.
If you think he's jerking off, why would you want him to come out, you absolute weirdo? And why would you try to peek in on him?
Oh no.
Let's watch that again.
Oh no.
Was this written by Tommy Wiseau? This is like something an actual group of teenagers would film in an afternoon on a $5 budget. Not an actual production with a professional team behind it. And again, he's staring at a blank page. Why couldn't they draw a cartoon on the page and then segue to the animation? So there's a cartoon about... what's an ad-friendly way to say it? Choking the chicken.
Ejaculation is often accompanied by a special intense feeling called orgasm, after which a person feels relaxed.
Or in my case, guilty.
You may have heard stories about how masturbation is harmful. But we know today that it cannot physically hurt you no matter how often you do it.
So just to be clear, Dead Dick December won't be an issue? Jimmy's friends are cheating in an eye exam. Why have they even been allowed in the room together? And then Jimmy bursts in. You know, bursting? Because it's sexual?
What I really want to talk about is wet dreams.
Perfectly normal for a boy your age. Let's see why it happens.
And she just happens to have a chart of the male anatomy on the board and ready to go. So we get another cartoon, and this one manages to take all the fun out of ejaculation.
Look at the size of that one.
I never knew they could get that long.
The boys are at the zoo, and I'm pretty sure it's mostly so that they could make that joke. But then Jimmy approaches a random man who works at the zoo because he thinks he might be the best person to ask about the male anatomy. I'm just gonna let this play.
Well, son, I admire your candor. You've come to the right man for the answer. Let's face it, in this job, I see a lot of penises. In this job, I see a lot of penises. In this job, I see a lot of penises. Animals' penises, that is.
Uh-huh. Sure. But he assures little Jimmy that it's not the size of your penis that matters, but the size of your heart. Jimmy goes back to his friends, and Tony laughs at him for trying to learn something about himself. So Jimmy stands up and gives them a speech worthy of Patton or the Wolf of Wall Street, in which he essentially recaps everything he's learned for the sake of an audience who've probably forgotten by this point because they were so distracted by the terrible acting and borderline bestiality. And a bunch of random people start applauding him, of course. Tony tries to mooch off Jimmy's popularity, of course. Susie asks him to the movies again, and he brutally shuts her down. Okay, no, he does it nicely. But they decide to go to the movies together, and they manage to sneak in just a little bit more of Tony's bullshit before the end.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I know all about this stuff. I got this little brother, see, he don't know anything, but you could talk to him. I'll just, listen in, just to make sure you don't make any mistakes.
Now I know what you're thinking, and yes, there was a sequel for girls. It was called Dear Diary. It's not as funny as Am I Normal, but it has its moments. It follows pretty much the exact same formula, starting with the characters. Janie is on a quest of self-discovery, she has a friend who's quiet and doesn't do much, and another friend who's a world-class bullshitter.
When she grows up, she wants to be gorgeous.
Well, that's unfortunate. And I wasn't joking when I said they used the exact same formula.
Oh, look what I just figured out. I was reading in this magazine where it tells you what the perfect figure is. The ideal measurements for a woman are 36 bust, 24 waist, and 36 hips. Perfection.
They practice kissing on an early prototype of a waifu body pillow that looks like it's preparing itself for the sweet embrace of oblivion. Janie tries to seduce a boy and fails spectacularly. And then she gets her period for the first time.
It was during dinner.
Is this a new recipe, honey? It's very good.
Oh, thank you, dear. About once every month I try to fix something a little different.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And then it happened.
Ah! I got it!
Sounds like Janie's got it.
So the mum gives her the talk, but just like the dad in Am I Normal, she's utterly useless.
Every month your body will get ready to have a baby, but if you don't have a baby, you will get your period instead, and this will happen to you every month for 40 years unless you do have a baby, but you better not unless you're married. There. That wasn't so hard, was it?
But because she's actually an intelligent human being, she's like, no mum, tell me something more useful than get pregnant or bleed.
Sweetheart, you don't have to know about that. You see, your body knows what it's doing, even if you don't.
Yeah, I'll remember that the next time I get cancer. There's an impromptu lesson about menstruation and the female reproductive system, which is great, because as far as I'm concerned, that stuff might as well be black magic. Although the teacher is a little bit too enthusiastic about organs.
It's amazing. They go right in here, in the curve of the colon, just like that. Isn't that nice? Next, we're going to put in the liver, okay? The liver fits right here over the pancreas. Oh, good, good. Isn't this fun?
The boring friend goes with her to buy a bra.
One of your breasts is bigger than the other. What does that mean? Maybe you'll grow up lopsided. Ugh.
Did I hear somebody mention the word breast?
I have nothing. There's nothing I can say. That was perfect. Jokes aside, the lesson here is that breasts come in all shapes and sizes, and it's all good. But then how does she demonstrate this point?
Look. Short and thin. Wonderful. Oh, tall and plump. Delightful. Medium and round. And there, dear. Lovely people, aren't they?
Something tells me that this woman should be on some kind of list. Next, she goes with her mum to a bookstore. You know, instead of the library.
May I help you? Well, yes. We were wondering. You see, well, yesterday my daughter... she's at the age when they do. And she did.
Do you have any books on puberty?
No problem.
I think I can safely say for the first time that the child actor is legitimately the best thing about this film. That's quite an achievement. The boys from Am I Normal have a cameo, for all the hardcore fans of the series, I guess. So they get given another book, which again is completely blank, and turns into a cartoon about puberty. The girls talk about going steady, but Janie's not too bothered.
Maybe I'll wait till next year.
Wait till next year?
What's wrong with that?
Well, what if you got hit by a truck before next year? And then died before ever going steady?
I gotta say, the logic is indisputable. She talks to her coach, but unfortunately for us, she's nowhere near as weird as the zookeeper. But she does give Janie some very good advice about growing up, which is cool. Meanwhile, Janie has accidentally brought her diary with her. Sensible Friends says, don't be a c***. And when she goes off to tell Janie about the diary, and doesn't take the diary with her for some reason, this c*** finds an inventive way around not being able to look at her friend's diary.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, look! Someone's diary. I wonder whose it could be.
And look at how dramatic they tried to make this climax.
Janie, you left your diary. I think some girls have got it. Look!
Christ. But it's okay, because the other girls are all going through the same thing, making her look like a right c***. And they saunter off into the sunset, all of them having learned something, and all of us having laughed our tits off. I would highly recommend that you go and watch these for yourselves in their entirety. I'll put links in the description. There's so much more glory to experience. But until next time...
And now that you know how it's done, don't do it.
A big shout out to these true homosexualoids for their awesome fan art. Feel free to send me fan art either on Twitter or Instagram. If I receive a lot, I won't be able to feature them all in videos, but I'll make sure to post them on Instagram, which I now have. It's mostly just fan art and pictures of Luna at the moment, but other interesting things will appear on it from time to time, I'm sure. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. The next one is going to be on this abomination. So yeah, until then.